Hi, welcome back to MC Disc Vlogs. We're here doing a question and answer video. We just came up with a random set of questions. I'll answer them, basic disc golf terminology and basic disc golf knowledge, things like that.
This is part one, so we might do a part two at some point.
Yeah, this is just what we have for right now. So,
My first question would be, when did you start playing disc golf and how did you get into it?
I started playing back in 2012, right around May of 2012, I think. Um, the neighbor that lived right next to my parents' house had a basket in his backyard, and he had a little putting course back there. And one day I just asked, like, what was the game at disc golf? Like, what was he doing with the putting game back there? And then I came over and played the little putting course that he had. And then eventually, me and him went out to the local course, Grand Woods, and started playing actual rounds out there. And then after that, I eventually started getting into leagues and tournaments and whatnot. And then just went on from there.
How can people get started if they want to start playing? What do you recommend?
I'd say go to like a store like a Meyer, Dick's Sporting Goods or something, and just buy a starter set, like the 150 class starter set that has like a putter, mid range, and a driver in there. Like the Innova one that has like a AVR, a Shark, and a Leopard. They're easy to throw and they're lightweight discs, so that'd be a good starting point. You don't want to start off with the high speed drivers like this, just because it has a like a 13 first speed or a 14 first speed doesn't mean it's going to go the farthest. Actually, really, what you want to do when you first start playing is start with the mid ranges and putters, because that it'll be the easiest to get those to fly straighter because they're intended for lower speed throws, and then you can work your way up to the drivers once you get more arm speed.
What is the difference between an overstable disc and an understable disc?
Okay, so um, I'll base everything off of like lefty backhand because I'm a lefty. So I throw backhand for most shots. Something that flies straight is just going to be considered stable for me, being a lefty. Something that would be understable would naturally churn to the left. It would start churning this way, and then something that's overstable would churn the other way and have a lot of fade on the end. Something that's neutral for like flight number wise would be like 0 0. Something that's overstable would have like a 3 or a 4 on the end. That'd be overstable, and something with like a 1 on the end or a 0, and then like a high speed churn, that would be a more understable disc. And if the two numbers match each other, like a -2 2, then those things will be pretty neutral.
So, feeding off of that, what does the numbers on the disc mean?
Okay, so most companies these days are implementing the flight number system. It's pretty much the same throughout most companies. First one is speed, that tells like how fast the disc is supposed to be when you get it up to the intended speed. The second one is glide, which basically that's how long it hangs in the air after the initial flight. Third one is high speed churn, which say on a lefty backhand shot, it goes out and then it churns this way. That'd be the high speed churn. And then the last number would be the fade. That'd be like low speed churn, when it just loses energy and falls out. That's what the last number is.
What is a nose angle?
Okay, so I'm holding a disc like this. The front of it would be the nose, and then the side of it would be the wing. So if I keep it flat like that, that's just a flat throw. If I angle it like that, that'd be what is called a hyzer, which for me it's good for throwing shots to the right. And angling it the other way like this would be anhyzer, for shots that I want to go to the left. Um, and then as far as nose angle goes, like when you first start throwing, you want to try to keep it as flat as possible, and you don't want to get it nose up, because then the throw will just go up and it'll stall in the air and you won't get as much distance. So especially when you come through on a flat shot, I say keep your arm below or at shoulder level, and then keep the nose angle flat or even somewhat downward. That way the disc will fly through the air better and it won't stall out in the air.
What is the next step?
And next step, I can kind of show one here. It's basically like a set of steps that basic set of steps. So you would go forward with the front foot, back, forward, and then when you go forward with the last step, that's when you want to pull through and come through. It's basically just 3 steps. You can modify it any way you want to get more run up, more energy into it, but those are the basic steps.
What is a good putting routine?
Really, putting routine varies between people. You can change any style. You can do hyzer putts. You can do flat and hyzer. The style is really a preference thing. It's just once you get a set routine, you want to stick to that routine and then practice it over and over until you get it down to a perfect set of a perfect set routine.
Just like your tee shots, right?
Yeah, and you want to make sure it's repeatable. You don't want to put too many steps into it. You want to make it as simple as possible and as repeatable as you can. That way it's easy once you get into like a tournament or league, and then you could keep doing the same thing.
What is the difference between a hyzer and an anhyzer?
Like I was saying with the nose angle, or that's more dependent on the wing angle. But yeah, the hyzer is like this. This is flat, and that'd be anhyzer. And anhyzers for good like shots, and you'd mostly throw that with like an understable disc or a neutral disc, and then hyzers are good for like overstable discs or flat. You just throw like a neutral disc, and then it'll hyzer out or fade more.
What is the difference between drivers, mid-ranges, and putters?
Okay, so I got a few different discs here. I got one of each. This is a putter. Putters are normally more rounded on the edge. They're the ones that are meant for going in the basket or short range shots. You could throw them on tee shots too. I usually throw them on shots like tee shots, like say 250 feet or under. And they're more blunt on the edge. They don't cut through the wind as good, but they fly straighter. They tend to fly straighter, and they're just good for low speed shots. A step up after that is a mid range. It's a little sharper on the edge, but it's still kind of blunt. It's not as fast as a driver. It's right in between. So for putters and approach discs, they go from like speeds 1 to 3. Mid ranges are typically speed 4 to 5. And then after that, you got fairway drivers, which are like speeds 6 through 8, and they have a rim that's not super thick, but it's thicker than like what a mid range is. A mid range is more blunt on the edge, and then a fairway driver is slightly thicker and faster. And then the thickest one is like the high speed distance driver, like this dimension here. This is a 14.5 speed. This is pretty much as fast as it gets. I think this is pretty much the max width allowed by the PDJ. Like I want to say it's like 25 millimeters or 24 millimeters, something like that, for the rim width. And that's, yeah, speed pretty much goes from like 1 to 14, and then this is the fastest one. And then the putter, like this is a 2-speed. This is one of the slowest ones.
And then the last question for part 1 is, what is the importance of disc weight?
Weight is pretty important because it can determine different factors. Usually, like when you're starting off, it's easier to throw lighter weights, especially with like the putters and mid ranges. You want to stick to lower weights because they're just easier to throw and they're easier to learn from. Because if you have something that's heavier, it's more likely to fade out and it's just harder to throw. But like, let's say a lighter disc, it'll glide better, but it won't fight through the wind as good. And then something that's heavier, like towards max weight, 175 grams, it'll fight through the wind better, but it'll also tend to be more overstable. So you could find something in between. Like a lot of discs vary from like 150 to 175 grams, so you could find whatever your preference is. And then certain things are better for like tailwinds. Understable or lighter discs are good, and then overstable and like heavier discs are good for headwinds and things like that.
If you guys have any questions that you want him to answer or anything that you want to know, just put it in the comments and we'll make sure to talk about it in part 2.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.